and welcome to vlog number 5. Today I want to dive right in and produce some blueberry fermented fruit juice, followed by blueberry vinegar, which is so easy to prepare. I just had to add it as a bonus to this video. As I am collecting my blueberries here, you might notice in the following sequences that I will not be crushing any of the blueberries before I put them into the glass jar. The only reason for that is my experimental tendencies took the overhand when I was preparing the solution, and with this fermented fruit juice solution I simply just wanted to test out the power of osmosis. And with that, I mean the power of the raw brown cane sugar I bought for the preparation of this Korean natural farming solution. The acquirement of this brown sugar and all its varieties that you can find in your local grocery store is a video in and of itself. So please do subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out on the rather surprising facts of brown sugar and why brown sugar is not always brown sugar. But enough digression for now. Let's get back to my little osmosis experiment, namely the preparation of one of the 9 core solutions presented by KNF, aka Korean Natural Farming. For me, it is the very first time that I use raw cane sugar, and to my knowledge, it is also the very first time that I use sugar to create a state of osmosis. Or in plain English, we are going to use the power of the sugar to extract the fruit juice with all its goodies like vitamins and minerals and all that out of the blueberries. We are not going to squeeze it out. We are not going to use a juicer. We are just going to let the sugar do its work, and with that, the extraction of the juice out of the blueberries and the fermentation process should take place in the next couple of days. I will show you the progress day by day, but to speed this process up, it obviously is clear that when you crush the blueberries in the glass jar before you add the sugar, your end result will reveal itself in just a matter of days. My results will take just a little bit longer to reveal themselves, simply because of the fact that it was a way for me to discover the power of osmosis. So, if you want to make your own blueberry fermented fruit juice and you're not in an experimental mood like I was at the time, or you just don't have or want to dedicate the time to wait this long for results to show up, by all means, just crush the blueberries in the glass jar before you add the sugar. One small warning though, blueberry juice stains like crazy, fermented or not, so you might want to leave that pretty little white dress hanging in the closet for this one. So here we go. I gathered some ripe blueberries from my 3 blueberry shrubs. This is best done early in the morning at the crack of dawn when the dew is still on the fruit. At this time of day, I once was told, the sugar content will also be at its peak. So that is a good tip for any gardener or gardener-to-be. Pick your fruits and vegetables early in the morning. Next, I take a clean and empty glass jar. You don't want to use a plastic container for this, even if it is see-through plastic. Just stick with glass. That is your safest bet that no chemicals will leak into your fermented solution. I put the empty glass jar on my scales and set them to 0. Next, I fill the jar with the freshly picked blueberries. There is no need to wash them, and if there is still some dew on them, that is something you shouldn't be concerned with either. Please keep in mind to fill the jar not all the way to the top. After we have added the sugar, the jar should be filled ideally about 2/3, with the 1/3 that is room for air. After all, we are trying to start the fermentation process here, and without air, fermentation isn't going to be possible. Also, sometimes the process of fermentation will increase the volume of what is placed in the jar, and you don't want the solution to spill over the edge of the jar during the fermentation process. I filled my jar about half full with blueberries, so I will have more than enough room to add the sugar later on. Now, you saw me doing a little calculation on the screen just yet? It's really quite simple. You just weigh the amount of blueberries that are in the jar and you multiply that weight by 2. In this case, 160 grams of blueberries times 2 makes 320 grams. Now, I just have to add 160 grams of brown sugar to the jar and my scales will read 320 grams total. Now I close up the jar with its lid and shake it firmly for a while because I want the sugar to cover each and every single berry. Since I didn't crush the berries for this preparation, the sugar has a hard time to stick to the berries because of the lack of moist. As you can notice, only where the dew was still on the berries, some of the sugar is sticking. Now I am going to add a top cover of sugar to protect the berries on top to have direct contact with the air. And I hope this will also prevent the development of molding during the fermentation process. I close up the jar with a piece of paper towel. This allows for a fluent airstream during the fermentation process. The tight rubber band prevents bugs and insects from getting their piece of sugar. Before I store the jar in a dry place, I label it. This is a very important step, especially when you are preparing multiple Korean natural farming solutions at the same time. Day 20 and the sugar on top of the berries has been absorbed completely. Now it is time to supersaturate our blueberry fermented fruit juice. And as promised at the beginning of the video, I will show you how easy it is to make blueberry vinegar with the leftovers from the fermented fruit juice. First, I take a glass measuring cup and a strainer, so I can collect all the juice. With a wooden spoon, I then push the last bits of juice out of the berries. As you could see, I have extracted a little less than 150 milliliters or just under a quarter pint of juice out of the blueberries. This total amount of liquid is important to measure, as you will soon discover. Now I will scoop the leftover berries back into the glass jar where a layer of brown sugar has accumulated during the fermentation process. I took a new clean glass jar with a fitting lid to transfer the fermented blueberry fruit juice into. Hereafter, I add a small amount of raw cane sugar to the liquid to supersaturate the juice. This way, The juice can be stored in a dark, cool place for about 12 months. If you want to store your fermented blueberry fruit juice in your refrigerator, for example, this step isn't necessary. The amount of sugar that needs to be added for the liquid to become fully saturated is reached as soon as the sugar seems to stay floating on top of the liquid. After a firm stirring with a wooden spoon, one can notice a small layer of sugar on the bottom of the jar. This is the best way to know that your fermented fruit juice is super saturated and can be kept in storage in a cool, dark place, such as a cellar, for example. And as promised at the beginning of this video, now I am going to show you how to start your own blueberry vinegar. Do you remember the total amount of liquid that we extracted? Now, double up that total and fill the jar with pure, unchlorinated water. After this step, you can close up the jar with a lid, but not too tightly, as the vinegar is a living thing that will develop in the next 3 to 6 months. I prefer to screw on the fitting lid after I have placed a piece of paper towel between the lid and the jar. That way I am sure that any gas could safely escape if necessary.